moron! Hey, moron! Dude! Look at me! I'm the waterboard, dude!
Well, good morning, good people. Mark Holmes here, of course, with my buddy Cowboy Joe Boo, as well as Joe Bear in the house. And as always, I want to say thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. Hope everybody's having a great day. It is hump day. I hope everybody's going to get over the hump. And we are 2 weeks away from the draft. 2 weeks and 1 day. That's right. 2 weeks from tomorrow, the NFL draft will go off, and the Cowboys will hopefully be getting future Hall of Famers and stars for the Cowboys. At the moment, though, we have DeMarvion Overshown. Of course, we had the big news that came through yesterday that Agent Zero is finally getting the number 0. And let's take a look at this clip right here. This is really nice seeing this. Much deserved, and I am happy as can be that we won't be using the number 13. I think the Dallas Cowboys should give the number 13 to Rowdy. I really think they need to give the number 13 to Rowdy, because a lot of people don't realize we started with Rowdy right after our last Super Bowl. I'm not saying that he's a jinx. But, you know, if I just don't want any of our players having 13. Michael Gallup with the knee injury, number 13. I believe Lucky Whitehead and making some of the dumb moves that he made, I had the number 13. And Overshown, not one but 2 knee injuries, season-ending knee injuries with the number 13. Give that number to Rowdy. Let's take a look at Overshown with this new number.
But it's the last number change, so no more customized jerseys. We're gonna have zeros in the pro shop. So
hope I don't get copyrighted for that sound. For the music. There we go. Overshown. Gotta love it. Agent Zero. Love it. Love it. The last number change for Agent Zero. So, as we sit here right now, we've got the draft getting ready to kick off in 2 weeks. And, of course, everybody is trying to figure out exactly what the Cowboys are doing. We can all agree on the needs that the Cowboys have. And quite frankly, they need, more than anything else, here's what the Cowboys really need. They need a day one impact player like Micah Parsons was out the box, or Tyler Smith. We don't need a project. We don't need a guy who's going to take a couple years to develop. We don't need a guy who's injured and down the road he could be great because our doctor said, he's going to recover and he's a higher talent than what you have there. I need a guy who's healthy, ready to go day one to wreak havoc. If that's a wide receiver, so be it. If it's a running back, so be it. If it's a defensive end or an offensive lineman, so be it. We need somebody that's going to improve day number 1. And the reality is this. We know that Diggs isn't going to be ready to start the season. And we don't know how deep in the season it's going to be. Agent Zero, we have hope. We see him here walking around, carrying his son and everything else, with the New Jersey and things, see him out there line dancing and things and looking pretty good with 4 more months left to go. I don't know that he's going to be ready to start the season, but he has said he wants to be comeback player of the year. Now, if he can come back and play like he did last year, you got a good chance on that one because nobody expects you 9 months after that kind of an injury to recover. That would be up there with Adrian Peterson. In the meantime, you can't hope on those 2 guys being ready. You have to plan for those guys not being there. If they are there, and can play, then it's icing on the cake. Then you're in even better shape. But you cannot count on that. And that's one of the problems with the Cowboys is they've gone through, whether it was Michael Gallup. Oh, well, he's not going to be ready for training camp, but he'll be ready to start the season. He wasn't ready to start in the middle of the season. But we made plans like he was going to be there. We cannot make that mistake. Now, the Cowboys, what they always like to do, and, a leopard does not change their spots. What they like to do in the first round, and it's been successful for them, is to get the highest graded player at whatever position it is. That's why you got Travis Frederick. They moved back to get Travis Frederick. He was the top center on the board. People said you shouldn't draft a center in the first round, but they did, and they got an extra pick and got Terrence Williams. The Cowboys like to get a top prospect with their pick. And that's why it's a wild card at 12. You don't know how the draft is going to shape up. You got to think that there's going to be at least 2, if not 3, quarterbacks taken early. Wide receivers are going to. More than likely, Austin Gentry. So when you start looking at defensive players, the defensive lineman or cornerback or, an offensive lineman, more than likely you'll be able to get the top prospect at that position. I can't tell you which one it's going to be. Nobody knows how the draft's going to shape out, regardless of all of the mock drafts that are out there. Now, the Cowboys have done their due diligence by bringing in all of the top prospects, basically. We've seen Austin Gentry and things that have been in there. They're bringing in all of the top running backs and so on. And we know offensively, we must get better production out of the running game to try and keep Dak Prescott upright. We also need to get better production out of our number 2 wide receiver, which makes another urgency there. And you could use more help on the offensive line. We hope that Tyler Guyton, who was inexperienced when the Cowboys drafted him, has had time to catch his breath, to get his man body on, get stronger and things, and do a lot of work to be better than where he was. We've seen Brock Hoffman in a small sample size, who seems to be, okay, he seems to be pretty good. But we don't really know off of 5 games if he's ready to step in and be like a Zach Martin. And then we have Terrence Steele, the enigma that is a great run blocking offensive lineman and not so good at pass blocking. So you do have a lot of questions that are on that offensive line that you must answer and try and figure out. So you could look at this from a standpoint, if you have an absolute positive stud like Austin Gentry that falls in the draft, you have now an instant impact player that you can plug in right now and go. Yes, baby. Yes. Got to take my baby to get a shot in her knee. When you've been married for a long time, things that you have become joint things, okay? And so I got bad knees. So now, after being married together for, 21, 22 years, we've been together, she got bad knees too. She got bad knees too. So we got to, we share our orthopedist, okay? So she's going to have to get a cortisone shot in there to loosen her knee up and everything else. But those are the kind of things that happen when you're together for a long time. Okay, so back to the Cowboys in their situation. It doesn't matter who the Cowboys draft. Everybody's going to kill them and tell them that they messed up in the draft. But you know what the crazy thing about the NFL draft is? 40% of the first round players will be bust. 40%. The NFL draft is literally a crapshoot. You've had players out there that have been as the Mel Kipers of the world, and I don't know why we still listen to the Mel Kipers, that are literally just wrong more times than not. They will tell you how great, Josh Rosen, he's the most polished, he's been bred to be, the quarterback and everything else, and literally can't bust a grape when they get there. Literally. You've had offensive lineman that they say is the best prospect in history become bust. There's no guarantee on any of these prospects or these picks. But the Cowboys in the first round have been way above average with what they do. And so look for them not to change what they're doing. I truly hope that the second round, because the Cowboys' philosophy in the second round is they're always looking for added value. See, position flex is a way of getting added value. A guy who can play two roles. A jack of all trades, and that's me. I'm a jack of all trades, okay? I can come through, I can frame up, I can drywall, I can do plumbing, I can do electrical. But I'm not as good at finishing drywall as a guy who only does drywall finishing. I'm not going to be as smooth. I can get the job done, but it's going to end up being, it's going to take me more time, more coats, and more sanding. And I'll probably miss some spots too. But that person who specializes in just doing drywall mud, man, they go through the first coat, man, it's like, damn, that shit look like it's ready to paint now. And see, that's where you have to have specialists. Now, people will go through, and it's funny to me because we always have people who will diss Micah Parsons and say, Micah Parsons, he can't stop the run. Okay, I hear you on that he's not great because he's light. But when you talk about the pressure rate of players over the last 5 years, there's two guys that are over 18%. Micah Parsons and Myles Garrett. I got a guy who is the top of the league at something. Then it's my fault for not giving him the support around him to cover for the things that he's not. Because we get a lot of guys out there that are, okay, they're better at stopping the run, but they can't get their ass to the quarterback. DeMarcus Lawrence. Very few of us can be a Swiss Army knife on the field. And so when the Cowboys, they go out, and you can see the highway littered with players that they've drafted that have had some kind of setback, be it off field, like smoking weed with Randy Gregory, attitude, like Tristan Hill, who didn't get along with his coaches, or injury, like Jalen Smith or Boss Man Fat. You can go down the line and the Cowboys say, this is a first round talented ranked guy who fell into the second round because of something else. He's scratch and dent. And so I can get a potential great buy for less. And that philosophy has come to bite them in the ass, where we can look at it and say, at the moment, I have hope for Sam Williams. I have a lot of hope for Schoonmaker. A lot of hope for Schoonmaker. But at the moment, and Marshawn Nealon, that's our three last second-round picks. I can go Boss Man Fat for 4. So you see, a second-round pick needs to be a starter. If I'm going through and I'm looking back at a draft, I have to get an impact guy. I've got to get a second starter. I have got to get outstanding special teamer, and I've got to get depth. If I can get those 4 things out of a draft, then to me, it's a successful draft. Well, here's the problem. Cowboys need wide receiver. They need another running back. They can use more help on the offensive line. They need a cornerback. And they need a run stopper on the defensive line. That's 5 players. That's 5. And you got 3 picks in the top 100. Sometimes you get lucky and get lightning in a bottle and you get a Dak Prescott. But that's few and far between. So the Cowboys have to hit on this. So don't be surprised if the Cowboys end up drafting a defensive lineman, because that defensive lineman who's a stud, much like Micah Parsons who fell to us, much like CeeDee Lamb. See, this is where I'm going here, is players that you don't expect to be there are going to be the ones that end up being drafted. And the Cowboys, what they have tried to do is to try and say, we don't have studs at all these positions. But if worse comes to worse, if it ends up being that, it ends up being an offensive lineman, then we can draft a running back in the second round or a wide receiver. And maybe we make a play. Maybe we make a play for a Breece Hall. Or maybe we make a play for Tyreek Hill to fill in one of those other spots there. Maybe it's the running back. Maybe it's Genty that's there, and we end up getting Genty. Okay? We get Genty, and we get a wide receiver in the second round. And then we go through with the third round, and we end up getting an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman and so on. And then we go through in free agency, and then we try and get a cornerback. You follow me? No matter what, the draft can't be the be-all, end-all for this team to put it all together. Now, one of the players that they're bringing in who seems to be moving up the board and is thought to be probably gone by the Cowboys draft, and that is defensive end, defensive edge rusher. Let me get to it. Dallas Cowboys have met with some of the top defenders in the nation. The most popular selection in mock drafts of the Dallas Cowboys have been, of course, wide receivers, continues to be the focus. But the Cowboys aren't limiting themselves during the pre-draft visits. On Tuesday, Nick Harris reported that Dallas met with Tennessee defensive end James Pierce Jr. Later that same day, they added, also spent time with Georgia's Mikel Williams. Harris has now identified 16 players Dallas has hosted in the top 30 on their 30 visits. Williams is predicted to go in the top 15, with some expecting him to be gone before Dallas is on the clock at number 12. The 6'5", 260-pound Williams helped the Bulldogs win the national championship following the 22 season. In 3 years, he recorded 14 sacks, 23 tackles for a loss. His production wasn't elite, but he has all the traits to develop into a perennial Pro Bowler at the next level. There's a blueprint for success with the Jacksonville Jaguars selecting Trayvon Walker, another Georgia defender with the modest numbers, and watching him develop into a top-tier pass rushers. The Cowboys, who lost DeMarcus Lawrence and Chauncey Goldston in the NFL free agency this offseason, need someone who can play opposite Micah Parsons. That is very true. And see, that would be the type move that is complementing Micah Parsons as well as replacing too. But be that as it may, the Cowboys have to get an instant impact guy. So, as you hear, I got to take my wife to the doctor. Cowboys have been written off already for the season. And, we've heard Colin Cowherd, the over and under for the Cowboys is 8.5. If I was able to ask my dad, he'd say over. I don't know how you can say that with having a healthy Dak Prescott, we can't win 9 games. I'm sorry. I just don't see that. Just from the simple fact of the fact that we went into the NFL season a gunfight with a butter knife, having lost 9 starters and doing nothing to replace them. If Dak Prescott is healthy, if we have some semblance of a running game, and we keep some of the players healthy on the field, we should be at least as good. And mind you, we were one boneheaded play away against the Bengals from winning 8 games with Cooper Rush and Trey Lance. Let's listen to this.
He said, I'm taking everybody else outside of Philadelphia, Washington, Green Bay, Detroit, Chicago, Tampa Bay. So after half the conference, I think they're good. It's only day. It's unbelievable, man. Go ahead, man. It's okay.
Man. I feel that way.
Really? After half the conference, half the conference is going. Now let's mention other teams. Now let's put the Dallas Cowboys. It'll be a lot better.
Danny boy.
Unbelievable, man.
What up, Miles?
Beautiful.
There we go.
Yeah.
How about
What up, Miles? What up, champ?
I know, it's unbelievable.
What did that say, TJ
Basketball
Maxx?
capital of the world.
What is it? It says
Tajay.
3 years in a row, Shannon. It says 3 years in a row.
Right. Yeah, I got you.
Are you going to take that tape out of the inside that's been holding your microphone, or you just going to leave it there? Or you can keep your jacket closed so we wouldn't know,
It looks like
or you can have it removed.
Exactly.
It looks like some tape's holding that jacket to cover up. Like,
And by the way, Molly, Molly, you and Dan Orlovsky
Are winners.
2 different shades of blue. Just what you ought to know. He's not consistent. You got on the right blue color. He doesn't. That's all right. Just let you know.
First Take has a tendency to
Shay,
copyright you.
do you agree with what Dan had to say?
No. Be better how much? Are they going to make the playoffs? So because if they win another game, that means they were better than what they were last year. But I don't see a noticeable increase. Are they going to make the playoffs? Are they going to make a deep run into the playoffs? Are they going to go more than one game? Do they get to the divisional round? Do they get to the conference championship? Dan and Stephen A was briefing me on what you guys had a conversation about on Friday. You put a lot of ifs in there. All these caveats. You know what? If I had Elon Musk money, I'd be the world's richest man. If. You know what? If I was 8 foot tall, I'd be the world's tallest man. Can we give some definitive, something that you feel you can sink your teeth in, that you can stand behind without 15 ifs?
That's not Dan Orlovsky. That's not Dan Orlovsky.
Give me something.
That's asking a lot. That's asking a lot.
Goodness,
That's
dude,
asking a lot.
you are
That's
freaking
asking a lot.
unreal. Okay, so
That's asking a
Shannon,
lot.
I gave 2 ifs, not a bunch of them. I said if Dak Prescott stays healthy, and I made the point that only 2 times in the last 5 seasons he has, and when he did, they won 12 and 11. That's the truth. So if he stays healthy and if they get someone that is worthy opposite CeeDee Lamb, maybe a
So you didn't say if. You didn't say if about Brian Schottenheimer. You didn't say if about him.
No, I said I don't know what.
I'm making that up. You didn't say that.
Yes. What I said
Oh, please.
What I said was I don't know what kind of coach he is. I can't sit here and tell you. Like when Matt LaFleur got hired in Green Bay, I was like, he's going to be a very good head coach. I don't know Brian Schottenheimer like that, so I don't know. So there's the obviously the lineage, but I don't know if he's going to be a good head coach. He might be a great head coach, and everybody else has missed out on him. So, but those are my 2 things. And Shannon, obviously there's different levels to it. But do I think they're going to be a better football team? Dak was hurt last year. Do I think they're going to be a better football team than people expect? I think people think that the Cowboys are going to be 6-11, 7-10 again. I don't believe that. I think they are going to be a playoff contending football team in 2025.
So they were bad when Dak was in there. Do you remember? Do you remember what it looked like when Dak was playing?
Who was the one who said it? Me. Yes, of course I remember that. But I think the offensive line was a very young unit that is going to be all in their 2nd or 3rd year, much improved. I think Ferguson will be healthy, much improved. I think the defense going from man to zone under Eberflus will be a better defensive unit. Trayvon, obviously, his health, a massive part. Deron Bland, his health, a massive part.
So you don't know about the head coach, but you think he's going to be all right, okay? The defense needs to improve. Right? You hope they're going to do that, right? Dak Prescott, you hope he's going to be healthy. And oh, by the way, the defense is going to be vastly improved because Eberflus is there from Chicago now.
He's a good coach, man.
He's a good DC. He's a good DC.
Listen, he's a good DC. He was a good DC years ago. Who knows how much being a head coach might have contaminated him? We don't know. That and combined with the fact that you go into Big D, playing for Jerry, working for under Jerry Jones, who knows what kind of rippling effect that may have on him. I love how you just gloss over that reality. Just ignore that.
So Stephen A., so you think they're a no-shot playoff team?
Yeah. That's about it, right?
No shot, no chance in hell.
Let me say this to you, because
Damn.
I don't only because of this one reason. I don't see them being any better than 3rd place in the NFC East. That's why. Now, if you're gonna tell me that 3 teams are gonna come out of the NFC East to go to the playoffs, I'm all ears. I mean, let's stop the presses. Rico Dowdle is going. I mean, let's stop that press right now. I mean, he's going right now, okay? And so then you got Williams from Denver that's now your running back at half the price. I mean, we got to point that out. CeeDee Lamb, has there been a secondary option to the wide receivers? I haven't heard about that, right?
Who do you think's going to be better, San Francisco or Dallas?
I think San Francisco. I trust Schottenheimer more than I trust Brian.
Whoa,
Schottenheimer.
they better be better.
I trust Kyle Shanahan more than I trust Schottenheimer.
After you tried to crush me and Stephen A. and say this man was elite. For the last 2 years, you've told us Brock Purdy was elite.
That's right.
And now you pose the question, Stephen A., who do you think is going to be better?
Excellent
San Francisco better be better with an elite quarterback.
Excellent point.
Are you guys serious?
We are serious. We heard we quoted you.
This stuff is just ridiculous.
You watched PK Subban put y'all through. Now you want me to do it too as well?
Hold on. What did he put us through?
Okay, enough of this. Enough of this.
Okay.
The Cowboys are written off for the season. They basically have no chance. Now, here's what I'm going to say, because every year we are always here in the same spot, right? They go ahead and they trash the Cowboys and they say, listen, you don't have the coach, you don't have the players to be good. You are trash. I've always pointed this out. The Cowboys, the season ends disappointingly. They say we suck. We go through the draft. They didn't do anything to help themselves. They're a C- or a C in the draft. And they go through free agency. They didn't do anything to help themselves. They don't care about winning. But somehow, by the end of training camp, they're going to be saying that the Dallas Cowboys are a Super Bowl contender. You know it's going to happen. Every single year, it always happens that they go through and they tell you they're Super Bowl contenders. They're Super Bowl contenders. After literally telling you we are the worst team and organization in football. So remember, they say we're going to be the under of 8.5 games. That we're going to be the under 8.5 games, and nobody believes in Brian Schottenheimer. Just remember that, good people. All righty. As always, I appreciate each and every one of you guys, and I got so much work to do. Whew, I got to get to work. And as always, I appreciate you guys. Peace out.